I'm coming back with this video, but I'm trying some I think it's called avant-garde, when it's like uh, daring and like original, for like something you shouldn't say about yourself, like original, but you're trying something avant-garde. And if I leave a lot of loose ends, then it could actually sound a little bit like ranting, but that's not my intent. But what I'm saying is that a little bit about what. So I think that some things are good for us. So I think that cannabis is very good for people. But I don't think that our lungs are part of our digestive system. So they had not been. So I know that there's different cultures that would imbibe things through the lungs, like in ceremony. But generally, I personally don't think that the lungs are part of the digestive system. And that might be what's so terrifying about like taking in cannabis through the lungs, is that the lungs actually aren't part of the digestive system. And what hits our bloodstream in our body should actually go through our stomach. That's actually how our body is designed to. Design sounds a little bit too intentional, but that's how our body is existing. Is that it actually takes in things and assimilates things through the stomach. So the experience of imbibing cannabis through the stomach would be different than taking it through the chest, and that also it somewhat might be taxing and compromising the function of the lungs in the chest, but to smoke it, because the lungs actually aren't a digestive apparatus. But sometimes you see people like they think they're being cool, and they're like taking a pull of this, like they're whoo, like they're eating something, but actually that's not what your lungs are for. Your lungs are for breathing like the clean air, the rarefied air on top of a mountain, but also on earth. That's what the lungs are for. But you take it through the stomach, and it's different, kind of like going up on a roller coaster and coming down smoother. And it might, for me, it is a smoother, healthier experience. And if anything comes to anything, I'll just fall asleep and and wake up a better person, a healthy person, and more of myself. But what I was saying is that so there are different times in my life where I got like sometimes people will say, a couple people who really know you, who are outstanding people, but who really know you, they can tell you something about yourself. So like my mom would tell me when I was older, she would tell me that when I was little, sometimes something that was compelling to her is that she'd be talking to me about something, and I'd say, why are you angry right now? And she didn't think that I could perceive that she was angry as a child, but she actually did have something that was bothering her that I could perceive as a child. And then when I got a little bit older, one of my friends was like, and I don't mean to reiterate this because I was getting onto this in a previous video, but my friend was like, dang, you're getting better at reading people. And then after that, there's a community member that I had a relationship with as a young person, like that would give me rides like to church and youth events and in school. And one time when I was an adult, I was visiting with some other young adults from the church, and also that man's wife. And we were visiting and congregating, and then I was talking to him about something, a way of earshot, and I was perceiving some of the strengths that I had recognized in these people. And I was saying in the other video that some of what I may have been appreciating in them that would be perceptible to me was part of experiencing states of mind that were somewhat frightening, but they allowed me to see more of myself. And seeing yourself and affecting yourself is the best way of affecting other people. So if you wanted to, like, I don't advocate for hurting anyone or violence or like military conflict. That's not necessary. But if you wanted to exert force over another person that is like say fighting or combat or whatnot, you would first actually do that to yourself in the forms of like training and working out. Is that you would affect yourself first. You put yourself through something, then you put someone else through something. That would be like fighting or combat or like a skill of some kind that affects people. Is that you actually affect yourself as a means to affect other people. But also coming to perceive yourself and also love yourself is a way to perceive and love others. And that might be some people's fascination with like entheogens, roughly, crudely, and the buzzword, the code word that invokes authority, for lack of a better word, penalty, and punishment, that gives some people advantage and disadvantage other people. That word would be called drugs. But the more humane and equitable and I think appropriate and even scientific term, according to the YouTuber Morris Brooklyn, is entheogen. for plant, animal, substance that affects a person's state of consciousness. And some of that can be as deadly or dangerous as anything else, just like you have different people that are beautiful and also dangerous. I don't mean to condemn someone by calling dangerous, but some people's activities and judgment can hurt people. Just like you have any motley crew of different people, you have motley crew of entheogens. So because something is an entheogen doesn't mean that it's good or bad on itself, or that what's good about it can't create bad, or what's bad about it can't create good. But some people, I wanted to learn and experience myself deeper when I was young, and part of me doing that, it made me more inscrutable and hard to. I was less appreciated by people who subscribe to like the values of the status quo and the dominant aesthetics in vogue. But it made me perceive myself deeper and also perceive other people deeper. That would sometimes be accurate. What I could perceive another person would be accurate to confirm with others. So I was talking to this community leader about people that I was experiencing and I wasn't saying nothing bad about them. I was actually saying what was cool about them that I perceived. And he was like, he said I believe that you are he said I believe you hear from a higher power. And I don't mean to say that in an arbitrary sense or or to associate with that, because what's called great is not to be associated with in the first place. So most people, I would sound backward to associate myself with what's great, or just to suggest that I receive directive that would imply that I have a higher scope of access to information or insight approaching omnipotence and omniscience would be invoked and implied by a statement like that. But just that sometimes I would be inspired by different thoughts, and also I could perceive nuances within myself and then through others by first perceiving in myself. And then he had said at another setting when I was trying to come forward with an inspirational statement that true love is to regard the best interest of another person with your heart. That had came to my mind, and I wanted to express that. And then he said that you can just read people, man. Like he said, you just look right through people. You see through people, and that had weight because there was another influential community member at that time. He had been a football player for like Iowa State University, and then he was at that church where we were at, and he was also self-employed. Where self-employed carried more weight back then in the early 2000s. Like you have a lot of gig work and 1099 work now, but back then, man, your ass had to punch a clock somewhere back then to do well for yourself, and you had to answer to a boss somewhere back then to do well for yourself, generally speaking. So if you were self-employed back then, like the first 5 years of this century, that was really that really implied something to be self-employed back then. And I spent some time with that friend of his, and I saw how he lived as self-employed back then, and it was like that might as well like what it would be like to spend time with a free man, because I was up under the man already, even as a young person, and that was something of freedom that I perceived in him. But one time we were at a parking lot, and he was asking me, he's like, what do you perceive in me? And it's not that I said kindness to him, because he had been a kind person, and he approached me and consoled me when I had been near about excommunicated from a faith setting because of trying to make statements that commend faith and inspiration, as I was inspired to, and I felt a zeal that I didn't otherwise know how to calibrate or ground. He would say, one time he said, "What do you perceive in me?" And that would just go to say that that other leader in the community, or maybe other people in that setting that had experienced me somewhere along, it had been maybe spoken over me that I may perceive things in people, not necessarily spiritual as in supernatural, but just subtle and human things about people. And so all I meant to say is that I could always see bullshit even since I was young. I could see bullshit. So like a lot of people, family, friends of family, educators, community members, other little kids were about a lot of bullshit like from a young age. And so I was actually extroverted and outgoing and lively, because as